Now in previous day I have taken your class of class 9 Civics chapter 5 working of institutions. So yesterday up to the political and permanent executive, that part I have explained. Now today I will start from the next part of that is Prime Minister and Council of Ministers. Okay, so Prime Minister and Council of Ministers, and that part Prime Minister is the most important political institution. Okay, so there is a no direct election to the post of the Prime Minister. Who appoints the Prime Minister? The President appoints the Prime Minister. Now the President appoints the leader of the majority party or the coalition of parties that commands a majority in the Lok Sabha as Prime Minister. So who appoints the Prime Minister? President. And how he has appoints the Prime Minister? From the major party. Okay, or if no party has got the majority in the election, so that time the party they are getting the in a maximum vote, together they form the government, that is called the coalition. Okay, so the coalition parties that the majority one, they are those who are actually leading, they are having the commands on the Lok Sabha. From that party President he chooses the Prime Minister. Now in case no single party or alliance gets a majority, the President appoints the person most likely to secure majority support. So suppose no single party got the majority, so that time President he chooses the person as a Prime Minister who secure the majority support, means in a Parliament who got the Lok Sabha, who got the majority support. Okay, so in that way actually President he chooses the Prime Minister when no single party or alliance they get the majority. Now the Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. Okay, he continue in his power so long as he remains the leader of the majority party or coalition. That means they don't think the Prime Minister actually is not having any tenure. How if the majority party or coalition party from where the Prime Minister belongs, so that party if they win the election, then Prime Minister he will continue with his post. Okay, when the party lose the election, that time only Prime Minister required to resign their post. Okay, resign his post, otherwise not required. If the majority party suppose every 5 years they win the election, then Prime Minister he will be continue with his power. So that is the reason it is written that Prime Minister does not have a fixed tenure. Okay, so after the appointment of Prime Minister, the President appoints other ministers on the advice of the Prime Minister, which are usually from the majority party or the coalition that has majority in the Lok Sabha. So after appointing Prime Minister, President he appoints the other ministers. Okay, so on advice of Prime Minister, and mainly this other minister are also from the majority party in the Lok Sabha or maybe the coalition that has the majority in the Lok Sabha. Now Prime Minister is free to choose. Now what is the power of Prime Minister? The Prime Minister is free to choose minister as long as they are the members of the Parliament. Okay, so members of Parliament, from their Prime Minister can choose anyone as a minister. Okay, any person as a minister. Now a person who is not a member of Parliament can also become a Prime Minister, minister, but such a person has to get elected to one of the houses of Parliament within 6 months of appointment as minister. So a person, suppose he is not the member of the Parliament, then he become also a minister. How? That person must be elected one of the houses of Parliament within the 6 months of appointment, he become a minister. Okay, so after getting the appointment, after that 6 months he become a minister. Now the Council of Ministers. What is Council of Ministers? Council of Ministers is the official name of the body, for the body that includes all the ministers. So all the ministers together, it is called the Council of Ministers. Okay, now in Council of Ministers yes, cabinet, lots of different type of ministers are there, like 60 to 80 ministers of different ranks is there. Now first is actually, that is I have already given, it is shown in my monitor, that is a cabinet minister. Okay, Now, cabinet ministers are usually top level leaders of the ruling party or parties who are in charge of the major ministries. So, cabinet ministers, they are the top level leaders from ruling party and they are in charge of the major ministries. And the cabinet is the inner ring of the council of ministers and comprises about 25 ministries, 20 to 25 ministries. Okay, so it is called this cabinet ministers are called the inner ring of the council of ministers because main actually decisions taken by this council of cabinet ministers. Okay, and it comprises 20 to 25 ministers. Now next it is given, that is the ministers of state. Wait a minute. Yes, ministers of state. Now in ministers of state, actually this ministers in state of charge, they are usually in charge of a smaller ministry and they participated in the cabinet meeting only when specially invited. So if they are invited, okay, so this ministers of state with independent charge, if they are invited, then only they are actually coming to the meeting, okay, cabinet meeting. Otherwise only they are looking after the smaller ministries. Okay, they are not that much of that cabinet meeting, they are not coming by their own. When they are invited, that time they are coming. Now next we are getting, that is the ministers of state. So ministers of state are attached and to require the assistant of cabinet minister. So they are the junior minister. Ministers of state are the junior minister who are assigned to assist cabinet ministers and the ministers of state with independent charges. Okay, so they assist the cabinet meeting when it is also be required, that time they are coming. Okay, now so this parliamentary democracy is most countries is often known as the cabinet form of government. Okay, so that is the reason our parliamentary democracy also called the cabinet form of government. Why? Because most of the decisions are taken in the cabinet meeting only. Okay, and every ministry has the secretaries who are civil servants and the secretaries provide the necessary background information to the ministers to take decisions. So the cabinet as a team is assisted by the cabinet secretary. So all the ministries, all the civil servants are there. Every ministry they are having the secretaries and the civil servant. So these civil servants and the secretaries, they actually give necessary information to the ministers when they are taking any decisions. Okay, so that is the reason the cabinet is actually working as a team, is assisted by the cabinet secretary. So these secretaries or the civil servants are there, those who are helping the cabinet ministers to take the decision. Okay, now next part we have to move, that is the power of prime minister. So prime minister is having lots of power, so we have to go for it. What power he is exercises now? The powers of the prime minister: as head of the government, the prime minister has wide ranging powers which are mentioned below. Now what are the powers it is given? That now we have to go for one by one. The prime minister's chair cabinet meetings. Okay, first he chairs the cabinet meeting. He is the head of the government. We all are knowing the prime minister is the head of the government and he only chairs the cabinet meeting. He coordinates the work of different departments. So different departments works also be coordinated by the prime minister. He only look after all the matters, that all the different departments, how they are working. Okay, his decisions are final in case disagreement arise between departments. So if in between the departments or among the departments, actually when any type of problem arises in case of when he is taking decisions, so that time that prime minister's decision is the last decision. He only go for this whatever the dispute or whatever the problem arises, he solve that one. Okay, he exercises general supervision of different ministries and different ministry also supervised by the prime minister. Now all ministers work under his leadership and the prime minister distributes and redistributes work to the ministries. So work also be distributed by the prime minister and he has the power to dismiss ministers. So if any ministers the prime minister he wants to dismiss, only that power in the hand of Prime Minister. And when the Prime Minister quits, the entire ministry quits because he is the leader. So if he will resign, then whole ministry also be resigned. Maybe the individual not given resignation, but the Prime Minister resigns means the entire ministry it also quits. Okay. Now, so we have to move to our next part, that is the President. President. So the President is the head of the state. We all are knowing he is the head of the country. So the President supervises the overall functioning of all the political institution in India. So President, he supervises all the functionings, okay, all the functioning of the political institution of our country, so that they operate in harmony to achieve the objectives of the state. Okay, so in that way actually the country's harmony or peace he only that easily we can achieve. That is also that is the matter of the President. He only look after all these things. Okay. Now, election of President. How President elected? Now the President is not elected directly by the people. So we people not directly we are choosing our President. Who choose the President? A candidate standing for President's post has to get a majority of votes from members of Parliament and the members of legislative assemblies to win the election. Okay. So MPs and MLAs, member of Parliament and member of legislative assembly, they choose our President. Now, what power he exercise? Now, the power of President. First, all governmental activities takes place in the name of whom? President, because he is the head of the state or country. So that is the reason all the government activities takes place in the name of President. Second is, all laws and major policy decisions of the government are issued in the name of President. So whatever the laws or major policy decisions taken, all these are in the name of the government. When they are issued it, they are given the name of the President because he is the head of the country. And all major appointments are made in the name of President, which includes the appointment of Chief Justice of India, judges of Supreme Court, High Courts of the state and the Governor of the state, the Election Commissioner, ambassadors to the other countries, etc. So all these posts, all these appointments made by the President. What I have told? First is Chief Justice of India, judges of Supreme Court and High Courts of the state, Governor of the state and election commissions and ambassadors, okay, of the country to the countries, other countries. All this type of post actually, these appointments made by the President. Now, not only that, all international treaties and agreements also made in the name of President. Okay, so whatever the treaties or agreements are when they are signing, the actually President sign it. Okay, and the President is the supreme commander of the defense forces of India, and he is having the supreme command on the defense or force. So defense is in the hand of whom? President. Okay, that power also be given. So the President exercises all these powers only on the advice of the Council of Ministers. But when he is taking the decisions, who has given the advice? Council of Ministers. Okay, all this power he is getting, but he is taking the advice from the Council of Ministers. The President can only appoint the Prime Minister by his or her own will. So this only part, the President, he can appoint only, that is the Prime Minister, but that also from the majority support. Okay. Now we have to move to our next part, that is the judiciary. Okay, 5.4. So judiciary, that means when it is, we are calling it judiciary, so courts are coming. Yes, so all the courts are at different levels in a country put together are called judiciary. So all the courts together, it is called the judiciary. So the Indian judiciary consists of what? First is Supreme Court. Yes, so a Supreme Court for the entire nation. Second is High Courts in the states. So Supreme Court only in one. Okay, one is there for the whole nation, that is Supreme Court. And High Courts, every states we are getting a High Court. And district court, district wise, all the districts having the district court. And in district, the courts are also there, that is called the local level courts, the courts at the local level. Okay, so these are the courts, together it is called the judiciary. Now, India has an integrated judiciary. Integrated judiciary means the Supreme Court controls the judicial administration in the country. Okay, so judicial administration, it is controlled by the Supreme Court, and its decisions are binding on all other courts of the country. So his decisions, the all over the country's court, they are following. So it can take up any dispute. So any type of dispute also be resolved by the Supreme Court. Now, what are the disputes? First is in between citizens of the country. So if any riot, suppose citizens of the country, when the huge people they are actually involved, so that type of cases also be going, that type of cases going to the Supreme Court. So in between citizens of the country. Next is between citizens and the government. So with the citizens, with government, if any disputes arises. Third is between two or more state governments, any dispute arises. Or lastly, between governments at the union and state level. Okay, so with the state government, with the union government or the central government, if any dispute arises, so this case is actually looked after by the Supreme Court. Now, independence of the judiciary. So what is the independence of the judiciary? We have to go for that part. Yes, independence of the judiciary means that it is not under the control of the legislature or the executive. The judges do not act on the direction of the government or according to the wishes of the party in power. So that judiciary is totally independent. Never they are in the control of the legislature or executive. They are totally free. They are having their total independence. That is the reason they never work according to the government or direction of the government or according to the wishes of the ruling party or the majority party. Okay, so that is the reason that judges, they can give their decisions in that way that nobody can pressurize them. Okay, it is totally independent, so that is the reason it is not going in a wrong. Okay, now the judges of the Supreme Courts and the High Courts are appointed by the President on the advice of Prime Minister and the consultation with the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. So judges of Supreme Court and High Court, they are appointed by the President on the advice of whom? Prime Minister and with the Chief Justice of Supreme Court. And once a person he is appointed as a judge of the Supreme Court or the High Court, it is nearly impossible to remove him or her from the position. So once when they are appointed, after that President also can't they will not given nobody has removed that judges, okay, from his post. Now a judge can be removed only by an impeachment motion passed separately by 2/3 members of the two houses of the parliament. So if any guilty it has proved, if any judges has done, so how they can remove, that process is called the impeachment motion. Okay, so that impeachment motion, actually the 2/3 of the members of the both the houses of parliament, when they will say yes, we want to remove the judges, that is actually in that way actually they can remove any judges. So this process is called the impeachment motion. Okay, now powers of judiciary. So what power actually exercise the judiciary? We are coming for this part. So the Supreme Court and the High Courts have the power to interpret the constitution of the country. So Supreme Court and High Courts only having the authority that they can interpret and explain the constitution of the country. Next is they can determine the constitutional validity of any legislation or action of the executive in the country when it is challenged before them. So that they can determine, who can determine? Yes, these courts are determine the constitutional validity of any legislation or action of the executive in the country when it is challenged before them. This is known as the judicial review. So it is called the judicial review. So if any type of actions of the executive in the country when it is challenged, so that time actually they are going for the revive it, okay, change it. So that is called the judicial review. And the Supreme Court of India has also ruled that the core or the basic principles of the constitution cannot be changed by the parliament. And that also the matter, the Supreme Court, they actually told clearly, it has written that the principles of constitution nobody can change. Maybe the parliament also, they cannot be changed the principles of the constitution. So whatever laws written in our constitution, nobody can change, or whatever the rights given, fundamental rights, all these, never the parliament also can be changed. Okay. So the power and the independence of the Indian judiciary allow it to act as the guardian of the fundamental rights. So that is the reason the powers and the independence of the Indian judiciary, our Indian judiciary, it is actually work as a guardian of our fundamental rights, and anyone can approach the courts if public interest is hurt by the actions of the government. So anybody, any people, any person, any citizens, they can approach to the courts if their public interest is hurt by any action of the government. Maybe a government has taken any action, so if the public interest it will be hurt, so anyone can approach for this, and this is called the public interest litigation. Okay, so this is when the public interest will be hurt by government action, that is called the public interest litigation. So now up to there it is given in your book, students. So once you read the chapter and watch the video carefully, easily you can understand the chapter. I hope you have understood. So now thank you to all of you.